Welcome to Impact Tech Studio podcast, where we spotlight founders building solutions rooted in real-world impact. Today, we're joined by Shruti Kushwaha, founder and CEO of 369 Innovations, a medtech company working at the intersection of prototyping, engineering, and medical device manufacturing. From rejecting the conventional Ivy League path to building healthcare products used in hospitals, Shruti's journey shows how market demand shapes real innovation. In this episode, she breaks down how medical ideas move from paper to production, why India is emerging as a trusted manufacturing hub, and what it truly takes to build in healthcare. Let's dive in. Hello, Shruti. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'll give you an introduction to what we do. So, I
Sure.
am the founder for Idea Shacks Ventures Private Limited, which is basically investing into impact startups at the angel round, pre seed and seed. And we are also looking into getting them onto a platform because obviously the meaningful innovators and executors who are creating for impact need to be given that eye, right? That visual and appeal to themselves. So I've heard
Yeah.
some funds who have always looked at startups which are able to validate themselves in public and then come back and ask for investment. So we become that plugin for them as well. Apart from that, obviously, all innovators are welcome. One of them is you. And we really looked at your profile and we really were impressed by it. This is a pro bono initiative because we actually, the value from it is for the investors to get you discovered and then get you into a loop in wherever positive we can get you into networking as well. So this is not just a podcast, it is a conversation. But I will obviously, after this, be your extended team if you let us be. And we will try to get you connected to a lot of people around, right? Whoever we have in our ecosystem, right? So you can raise a point, you have a friend on LinkedIn, right? So this is how I wanted to start to keep the energy positive and happy. I'm glad. And moving from that angle, I would like to introduce you to my audience. And I would love to give a basic, quick introduction of Shruti Kushwaha. Uh, Shruti Kushwaha is the founder and CEO of 369 Innovations and a recognized leader in medical device design and global healthcare infrastructure. With a background that spans pharmaceutical chemistry and industrial design from TU Delft, she bridges the gap between complex engineering and clinical relevance. From 369 Innovations, if I wanted to put some light to it, is a product engineering and contract manufacturing company that specializes in transforming medical concepts into market ready healthcare solutions. So basically, your plugin for all go to market innovation that can align to your value chain, right? So if
Absolutely.
I am able to understand that correctly, so I would love to have your introduction of how do you define 369 Innovations? What has been the story of 369 Innovations? Why did you start 369 Innovations? These all three questions are intertwined in your story. So please give us an understanding of what it is and why.
No, first of all, thank you for having me,
Well,
Arjun. And I think it's a fantastic platform. I think what you guys are doing is probably very novel in its own substance.
mm,
And it's a very long answer to answer, first of all.
right, right.
So I would just start with how we ended up making the company and then proceed to what my company does, right?
Yes, please.
So I started my career as a medical advisor with Torrent Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
I worked in Torrent for 3 years, and then I, of course, wanted to advance myself in terms of a MBA degree, which I only wanted to do from Ivy Leagues. So I gave myself a year to actually prepare for Ivy Leagues, and fortunately, I got accepted by Kellogg's also
Right.
for an EMBA program, of course.
Right.
And that's how I think it was the campus of Kellogg's that ignited the seeds of entrepreneurship.
Mm,
I don't think I had any idea of venturing into entrepreneurship even when I was planning my MBA. I mean,
mm,
I was a person who used to make those 5 year, 10 year boring goals. and make sure that those 5 year, 10 year goals are in check, right?
Right.
So because I've like been an academician topper in my universities, in my schools. So those frontline students have a different way of perceiving world, have a different way of having order around us, and from that orderly life to entering how chaotic an entrepreneurship life is, I've probably changed myself also in this journey. Uh, which is why most of the times I say entrepreneurship is like a meditation. If you actually continue to know yourself more and more, it's actually the right way of peeling off those layers within you and to find the true strength within you. But nevertheless, that is a separate discussion that we can have. So now coming back to this point, so we I had an idea actually of just like I wanted to do something, and my idea seeded at a very random, I think, Starbucks in Orlando. And I met somebody, and which is where they actually, and sometimes it happens that the strangers says sane and very logical things which you never thought of.
Right. Right.
I was just a stranger conversation. He overheard me talking to somebody on phone, and he told me that you should think about plunging into entrepreneurship right now. Why wait for 2 more years to finish and get into the rut of H1B visas, H1 visas, sorry, H1 visas and all of that. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because the money I was going to put for my education, probably the same money or half of the money I could use in experimentation, and my admission could stand for more 5 years, so I could just experiment myself, give myself a year and see how this goes. And if I still don't want to continue, at least I know that I tried my best. So that was the stint. That was a major risk, probably I had taken for the first time in my life, because everyone dreams about getting into the Ivy Leagues. And uh, I felt that moment, that when you have that moment, you no longer want to cherish it. You want to just quickly switch to the next moment, which brings joy to you. And that is exactly what I did. Uh, so I came back to India, and my first idea was actually to build a design house. So I had seen in US how design houses were at the intersection of science, technology, IT, lifestyle, culture, and all of that, right?
You
And
have seen
at
a
that
product
point,
design house. So you've seen a product design house,
correct,
which
correct,
is
correct.
majorly product design for industrial product design. Right.
Everything. So it had
Right.
everything. So like a design house had all kinds of designers in that, and all kinds
Right.
of designs could be created from that, right?
Right.
So there were like shoe designs and rug designs and
Right.
lifestyle accessory designs and industrial products, and even lifestyle products, right? Like
Right.
refrigerators and washing machines and all of those.
Right.
So I had seen that, and I had that bare idea that I want to start something like that. And we started with like a design house itself. But we were a very small team, of course, with co-working spaces we wanted to try and all of that. So it while experimenting the design house, I somewhere understood that I was made for the medical and paramedical industry, and I missed my industry because design is a completely different world, right? And between that, I actually did the course from TU Delft, which you had mentioned, while I
Right.
was, because I was just, I had a paradigm shift. Like
Correct.
I was a pharmacist, I was a medical advisor, I was always around doctors and drugs and these kind of discussions about diseases, right? But you never know the aspects and in the world of design until you actually know some fundamentals. So, which is why I got myself into TU Delft, and and I did that course. It was a remote course, of course. Um, so I got a fine understanding that, oh, this is amazing. I mean, this is how, once you learn how design is in itself, you start getting interest in everything around you. You start having a judgment in everything around you. But like, why is the shape of cup like this? Why is the shape of table like this? It could have been
Yes.
better, right?
Well, design has that character to it, so it makes you amazingly aware of what is around you.
Yeah, everything around you sensitizes, right? In terms of design. Then you start having like a sort of eye for everything. And that translated us to some projects we did, like furniture design and bottle design and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But cut to that, I think around 2019, we understood that a niche would be better. Like before that, we used to do all kinds of projects, which included developing, devices like a telemedicine box or a vending machine or a dispensing machine, right? Or a juice vending machine, right? So those automated pressure cookers and all of that, right? So we had done all of that. And we understood that, we have to actually pick a niche. And that niche was my niche, right? So
Right.
my niche was into medical segment. And that is how my inclination towards engineering, I guess, happened. Like, so we used to study their engineering in our pharmaceutical days. Like, I still remember we had pharmaceutical engineering as a subject, but it was all about how tablet manufacturing and capsule manufacturing and syrup manufacturing happens, right? It was nothing like how do you mechanically design something, right?
Right.
So that is how we actually reshaped ourselves to more of an engineering centric company rather than just a design house.
Right.
We also understood that India market was not the right place for the design house to even sustain, because everyone knows Pinterest and everyone can create their own designs through graphic designers, and nobody wanted to pay that much, right? So it was pivoted to an engineering company, and then to a medical device company we solely focused on, because then our portfolio started increasing more in healthcare organically somehow. And that is where we decided that the money should be followed. So we followed into medical device manufacturing, and that's how we grew. So 369 today is
Yes.
at the intersection of prototyping, contract manufacturing, and a center of excellence. So today, we are expanding our capacity to even create center of excellence for foreign companies in India, uh, where we can support them with manufacturing of their innovations and even protect their IPs under the regulatory laws. So that is the idea. So if you probably think of creating something via your people, you would come to us, you would tell us that this is what I'm creating. I want this to come to life. I want these many pieces to be manufactured. And or we anchor to all already existing devices. So let's say you have a portfolio of 15 devices or 16 devices, and you come to us that I want a line extension, or I want some better product of what is existing right
Correct.
now.
In this
So
way, yes.
yeah, so we would even enhance your existing product technologically and even mechanically. Or if you want to just change the design, because sometimes the Indian market wants a different design and the German market of the same device would want a different design, right?
Right.
So even if there are aesthetic changes to the design, we do that. So we are your go-to person when it comes to creating your ideas from paper to manufacturing. So that is what we do.
Right. Right. And you're concentrated on the medical device industry, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Right now we are only concentrated on
Since when have you concentrated on that? So how many years of working in the medical device side?
right. So that has been roughly around 4 years. Yeah. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. And what is the kind of, so when we look at your centers of excellence, where you're actually doing the work, right? So your center of excellence is where you're prototyping and everything that you want to.
We have a unit. Yeah, we have a unit in Ahmedabad, and we're currently prototyping up to 50 to 100 units in that
When
facility.
you say 50 to 100, so I want to get aligned with the industry. So can you please give me more details of what does that mean?
So when you come with a new product
Yes.
and you don't want to invest in the dies of those
Correct.
product
Correct.
taking, right?
Correct.
Because the molding apparatus costs more
Yes.
to the manufacturer
Correct.
and to the supplier also, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is, without making those molds and without making those molding apparatus for you customized, we can create the same design up to 50 and 100 pieces, which become your test market first.
Correct. Your
Right.
prototypes that you can take it to market and then you can
And you
know
can
what you can do
test.
with it. Right.
Right.
And test.
So yeah, so that like is the final design product that is market ready also, market friendly also. And now you just need to test in your customer base up to 50 to 100 units, because you want to experiment how this rolls out before investing too much in the manufacturing side of
So
it.
these are actually final. So this conversation will always be like a conversation. So those questions that we gave you were just a framework to just drive the whole
I understand.
preparedness of the interview. So basically, when you are saying that these are go-to-market ready products that you are giving for 50 to 100 quantity, they are actually
Right.
go-to-market ready, or are they
They are
prototypes
actually
that
go
can be changed to another material?
They are actually go to market ready. If they want a change of material, that can happen in the second batch of manufacturing.
Right.
But having said that, there are Me Too products also, right? So there are white label products also.
Right.
So
Right.
so those products can be easily done because their molds and dyes are available, right?
Right.
So there we can easily do whatever units the client is asking through our, of course,
So
channel
any
partners.
number, so that quantity can be contractually given out at the scale that the client is asking for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Correct. Okay. So looking at this, what is the structure of that center of excellence? So what all kinds of equipments do you have in that center of excellence, and how is it funded, and how is it moving forward?
So right now it is self-funded, right?
Okay.
We are in the process of more partnerships in terms of raising money for expanding the manufacturing facility.
Right.
But as a center of excellence, what we do is A to Z. So let's say you are a company sitting in US and you already have a business and you already have a market of device X. Okay.
Right.
But probably your US manufacturing, because of the engineers, the designers, and the workers that you have employed, it is very costly. So you cannot fetch more profits from it.
Right.
So what you do, and also if you have like a vision of launching the same product in India or Asian markets, so what will you do? So you will not shift your entire US manufacturing. What you will do is you will have a second line of manufacturing in Asia somewhere, which is why most people do in China. And now with the manufacturing wave in India, most people would want to shift to India because we can protect their IPs. Their IPs can be still their IPs, right? Uh, yeah, in international markets, Indians do have that impression that they are more honest than Chinese. So
Is that true?
that we, yeah, they're more honest. Yeah, even in the African
The
markets,
perception is driving that, and there is some trust.
correct. Yeah. Even in the African markets, people trust Indians more than the Chinese and the Lebanese and the local people, right? So we have that perception that Indians must be, they are very good to deal with, they're very honest, they say directly, they say face to face, they have a very clear pointing that this will happen and this will not happen. Now, which I think is a great fact for us to even convert them. So that is what we do. So we anchor them from step one of even finding the location, or finding a factory, or anchoring us, anchoring them to our factories, and create a small portion for them so that they can have their own R&D going on constantly, and the batch production is happening somewhere. So we actually handhold them from any point to any point, and end to end, right? So that is what we do as center of excellence. Um like Capgemini has built center of excellence for Bosch and Philips, right? So what they do is they have a huge facility, and they divide that facility into their clients' R&D sections, right?
Right.
And then the batch manufacturing happens at a different destination. So that's how it happens.
Right. Interesting. So, looking at that, so when you say partnerships, so you talked about partnerships, and in the ecosystem, you might be partnering with uh, what kind of value chain partnerships do you do? Let's just look at your answer there.
So there are factories who only manufacture certain equipments, right? Like there are factories who would only be in hospital equipments, let's say.
Right.
So they will manufacture hospital beds also, and all the hospital furniture, what you say, right, including stretchers and beds and I think stands, those stands and trays and everything, right? So there are factories like that. Then there are factories who have special cleaning and quality rooms with them, right? So we partner with them also, so that our samples are QC approved, QA approved, and there is a clean room also where we can do testing of those samples and stuff like that.
Right.
Then there are manufacturers who actually manufacture the electrical side of it, and they have now expanded to the mechanical, because it's very easy to scale your existing electronics factory
Correct.
to the mechanical part. The other way around becomes a little tedious and difficult. Mechanical factory
Integrating.
is
Right.
like easy,
Right. Understood.
right?
Yes. So from
Yeah.
the wiring and all those things which are electrical equipment needs to be added at every
Correct.
assembly
It
line.
needs to be integrated as a device, right?
Yeah.
With the IoT coming in more, everything is IoT.
So
Like these days.
deduction is easy, addition is difficult.
So mechanical addition is easy.
Yeah.
But electronic addition is difficult,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So we partner with those kind of companies also who have both as integration centers, and so that's how we function, right? We partner with them. We did had a thought of building our own, but then why why to build my own when there are partners available and when there is an ecosystem that already exists? Why would I just start from fresh when I have such expert ecosystem partners that can do their job, and I would continue to do my job?
One more thing that I wanted to understand about partnerships was, do you also do partnerships with universities and their innovation wings where they have all the resources in India? Where if they have a capacity problem or you have a capacity problem, and there could be a share of that capacity with their research.
Right.
Very specific to one requirement I'm going through these days, where somebody is asking me to connect to someone to give them some innovation projects to their innovation department in the university for driving their product design or something that they want to do to drive their students to move in that direction.
Yeah. We translated actually this strategy many years back when we were new. But unfortunately, that time the market was very naive in terms of understanding that. Uh, Also, we did a lot of internships with institutions, design institutions, and IITs, right? So we did internships with them also. But then we later on understood that our selfishness would be when we have trained the designer, would that be onboarded with us, right? So if he or she has crossed that journey, we have a soft communication comfort.
Correct.
Right, we would want to retain that talent, right? But what used to happen is that they immediately the project is over and then they move switch on. So it started to make us feel as if
Learning curve has become really big and very costly. So every time a person leaves, the next person needs to be trained from scratch on the same our
So
process.
we then what we did was we had like a no fresher policy. Like we don't do internships, we don't do policies. But having said that, if there are universities who would want like an innovation center to be built up, we would love to explore that opportunity, because we did give a couple of these proposals to universities. But then they were like, हमको तो सिर्फ 3D printer चाहिए, आप 3D printer बेच दो, and that is all. So I was like, man, that is not how it works, right? If you consult us to build an innovation lab, we would build an innovation lab which is actually an innovation lab. Just a 3D
The whole
printer is not
process
called an innovation
facilities
lab.
and services that go around it to build a program of innovation within, right? It has to
Correct.
move that way. If there is no program of building the innovation, then it is just everyone can put a 3D printer. Even brands can come in and give you free 3D printers because they say, yeah, you are using it, everyone else will pay on it, you don't have to pay for it. So those kind
Correct.
of things.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. So I can get you connected to one department of one known university. However, that conversation goes, let's have a conversation if you're open for it.
We will
I know the
definitely be.
person who heads that strategy. So she's the MD of that strategy there, and I'll just get you connected, right?
Done.
Right. That way, I can drive that conversation in the same way because I resonate with you. So that might be a conversation we could have. Secondly, let's look at. I saw that you have also got a Karamveer Award. Just to keep the conversation light there, right? Karamveer Chakra Award. So what is that?
It was around 2019.
Yes.
I think I received an email from Rex Foundation, and they had awarded people from multifactorial facets of life, from
Right.
even from artists, from actors to everyone, and I was very happy to see their alumni list. And I honestly I did not know the value of it when I confirmed with them, because their email came and they wanted a confirmation, and I said, okay, let's do this. Uh, but uh, but I think most awards, the alumni matters, right? If they are given on the basis of credibility rather than a PR stunt. So this was not like a PR stunt for me.
Right.
This was
Right.
given out of the credibility that we had.
Right.
Because the name started traveling in 2019. The name started going to places. We would receive calls from Bangalore, even about like a gun design or a pistol design,
Right.
and we would not know who has referred us. So that started happening, and that is how we got selected in the Karamveer Award. I still don't know the value of it, to be very honest.
Right. Right. But amazing, amazing that you have done so much of a plethora of different types of product design coming from very eclectic departments of a country, right? So, gun
Yeah,
design
yeah.
from Bangalore.
We had a very experimented and thriving design exposure. I would say that, yeah.
Right. So, what is the understanding of yours looking at the new FTA news that has just come in? Yesterday, you've just got that news that there is an FTA now with US and India also, right? There is a Europe India and US India FTA that has also been approved, right? And Trump has said yes to it, right? So, the game has become positive for India. So, what is your kind of alignment with international markets? How are you looking at this FTA? Do you have any opinion, or you don't have any opinion?
I'll tell you very crudely. I think
Yes.
it can offend a lot of people, but
Yes.
I don't know. One, I am not at a position to challenge those policies or even comment on it,
Correct.
because I don't think I am sitting at those positions right now, because
Correct.
those policies are drafted from the experts. They have a lot of data. They have their own research. They have their own perspectives to it, and we are on the other side of the table, right? So we are the beneficiaries of those
Correct.
policies.
Correct.
Now, talking about benefits,
So, what are your hopes from?
usually, yeah. So talking about benefits,
Yeah.
usually these policies translate into benefits after many years. Like a
Correct.
small business
Correct.
owner
As a
would
gestation.
not.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Obviously, the first result that anyone will see will be next year, whatever they say.
correct,
No.
right?
Yes.
So we would not until unless we have an experience with those policies around.
Right.
Like the Make in India policy, we used it as a campaign for one of our campaigns, of course, email marketing campaigns. Uh, After 2 years of its announcement, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? The translation comes to us at a level where it's already experimented. And until I have experimented, to be very honest, I will not be able to even
Correct.
give any comments on whether
Correct.
this will be benefited to me
Right.
or not. You just
Right.
have to go on, and if you have a conversation with
And
somebody
you
sitting on
have
the
a
West,
and you have a order book which is already there. You are structured, and you are already having an order book of innovations that you have to work on, and you have your flow of the organization already there, right? So that is
correct.
already there. So obviously everything will get visible when your quality is visible to other people. That's the only
Of
thing that you
course.
can focus on, right?
Which is I
Amazing.
said that in those conversations, if somebody talks to you about this, and if
Right.
that is directly connected to any of the business vectors that we have,
Correct.
then probably we would understand that this is how the policy has played a role in converting somebody or in accelerating their experience, right?
So when you say medical devices, right? So let's come back to the medical devices. So medical devices, in what part of medical treatments are you focused on, or are
We
you
do.
just
We
agnostic
Yeah.
to all medical equipment?
We want to actually cover sector wise. We did a lot of patient centric devices
Right.
in the past, right?
Right.
Um,
Which are directly used by the patient
by the patient.
post the
Yes.
treatment and during the treatment, or post the
Right.
treatment.
post the treatment or during the treatment, both, right?
Both.
Second, we did a lot of hospital devices, like a telemedicine box that can be used by a doctor, right? Like a vein identification device that can be used by doctors and nurses, right? So we did a lot of hospital devices. I don't think we will ever go into the diagnostic side because we don't have that expertise. Second, we don't want to enter that market knowingly. Because there are big heads which I don't want to compete with, and that is a separate ball game together, right? You know, manufacturing a CT machine or manufacturing an MRI machine, I uh, I think let's just the big boys do their work, right?
Correct.
So we would mostly always play around, assistive tech devices, and patient devices, and monitoring devices, and wearables, and hospital devices. So that is what our sweet spot is, and we
So
would
you're
want
also
continue.
moving into robotics as well in those medical devices. Are you also having some part of robotics?
Not right now.
Okay.
We
It's more mechanical innovation where they can integrate later on, or you can give them advice on later on integration of robotics within it.
Probably it's more of a mechanical electro integration that we can do. We don't claim we are AI experts. We don't claim that we can create robotics for surgeries. Uh, and that is a very separate space. So right now we don't have those plans to integrate robotics in our R&Ds.
So one more question I have, a curious question. So what kind of innovations are your highlights that you've just remember and you would like to talk about? One innovation that you've done recently, or you can talk about it. Like
I think
product or one product design that you was really a highlight of your achievements while you were doing it. Whatever comes to the mind.
And I think the telemedicine box was like a great project that we did with a US based company. It was a startup only. And the exciting part was, of course, the money, because it was the highest serviceable project that we did. But the challenges also were super, super experience rich, and we learned so much in those experiences. It was about integrating local device. So let's say a digital stethoscope or a digital oximeter and stuff like that, integrating it as a telemedicine box, and the data goes to the cloud. And those devices are also interconnected within a certain vicinity, which acts more like a portable hospital. So your files can be saved, your history can be saved, and your diagnosis goes from one doctor to another in quickly few seconds, right? So on the electronic side, we actually evolved more working on that project. We were always strong mechanically. We were from a Pune-based company. We were called iPhones in design. So we knew that our strength was mechanical. But from the electronic side, we learned so much working on that project. Yeah, so that was one project. And the last project that we did was sort of a patch, a cardiac patch, who could read out your arrhythmia readings on your phone app. So that is what we did.
So that patch is basically you put it on your arm or something. How do you put it?
Yeah, you put it in any of the electrode points that are in your body, and it would give you readings on the app of the company. So, but it was not accurate, and our role was to make it more accurate. They were not getting a special.
The fun part of innovation. That is the fun part, right? That makes you so interested in, okay, this is a problem and I know the
Correct.
problem.
Yeah.
So once you know the problem,
Yeah.
you're so excited to do it, right?
Yeah, we get fascinated to do these kind of things because we see a team of like 15 engineers and 10 engineers working on the problem, and then when the company comes and tells it that this is not happening with all of my engineers put together, could you please sort this?
So how is your structure of the organization? So do you employ engineers or do you have contract
employ, yeah.
engineers? How do you do it?
We employ also, and we have contractual also, depending on case to case. Previously, we used to even hire aerospace engineers when a drone design used to come to us. So when a specialized project needs a specialized engineering, we integrate that as consultant. But rest we usually hire mechanical engineers, electronic engineers, industrial designers, in addition to the usual business and marketing and sales team.
Hmm. Right. So, basically, one more idea that was coming in my mind was you must be doing it. Obviously, I am very not from your industry. You must have already worked on, but you also must be aligning with accelerators of medical impact accelerators in some way.
Yeah.
Anything that is health driven or health IT driven. If you could just connect them to us, and we will become their lab.
Correct. We did that with I remember we did that with German accelerator based in US. We would so it was a very open modus operandi. It was an MOU understanding between the accelerator and the company, where when their onboarded startups require a prototyping or a technical or a product development help,
Right.
we would give them at a very very discounted, like a student rate.
So this is like a retainership or a umbrella agreement for a number of innovation.
An umbrella agreement, you could say that, yeah. Right. So we would give them our expertise so that their products and their projects can build better, because we were on the side of more realistic designs, and they had a very nascent understanding of the design. Usually startups don't come with any understanding of
Yes.
design.
Yeah, true. And they need a partner
it
to
all
guide that conversation in an organized way because people need to understand what's going on. Right. So that is
Correct.
something that needs to also be in the system. So yeah, so you would be open to more alignment, or that experience did not go through well, or something came out of it, or not much.
Well, until now, that experience hasn't translated much in terms of money. It in terms of name, perhaps more, but in terms of money, it hasn't translated much. So, if there is a better proposition, uh, I would love to explore on that part.
Correct. Correct. So let's go back to your questions. And I had some understandings from another light question for you. You said your identity is an Enneagram 4. Now, what is that?
Yeah,
Need to put the audience into a
yeah.
understanding of what that means and how does it add value.
So,
Yes.
well, I'm a very curious person, right? I want to know everything, what I read, and everything which interests me.
Right.
So I remember during my days in college, as a part of training, we used to do this personality assessment test. There were the 16 different personality assessment tests, which were psychologically evaluated through a series of questions, right? And since then, I've got into this understanding and curiosity of knowing how more these tests are developed and why these tests are developed and all of that. And that is where I came across Enneagram as a personality test. So Enneagram is a very focused, advanced way of assessing your personality, through your decision making ability, through your choices, and through your thinking through those questionnaires, right? And Enneagram 4 is probably an empath, uh, a very stubborn leader who doesn't listen to anyone. And they have soft corners for most of the people who share the same pain as they have.
Right.
So
Right.
so why I identify myself as Enneagram 4 is that is what came after I gave the test.
Yes.
Right. So clinically, I'm an Enneagram 4. But how it translates to my personality, I think it resonates in being an empath leader, in being a leader who would focus more on the growth of her own people rather than herself. So yeah, I've cut down myself at a few places in the process of giving benefit to others. So that has also happened because that is the negative side of being an empath, that you quickly understand what the other person's pain is, but probably you won't be able to read whether that is real or not, you know.
Yeah, but yes, I agree that anything that you are empath about, my understanding is that everything adds up in the end. So it's always a
I
value.
think that's yeah.
As long as you're doing something which is adding value to anything, either yourself or somebody else, you're on the game, right? You're already on the path.
Yeah.
So that's
So
what-
Enneagram 4s also have varied interests. They have a life which is very close to a life. So yeah, all of those things anchor with my personality. I have a very close to a life. I have very selective friends. I at this age I don't want new friends, and I'm I'm pretty much happy in the space that I am in, and I would want to do more and more through my ability to do more. So that is what it is.
Right. So you've talked about an invisible hand guiding you through the process. So I'm seeing a lot of work happening in your startup. So one is the product design of it, right? And giving contractual work out of it. And then you're saying that you're doing contractual, if you want to get some contractual work done and supply some devices to another country to create that capability in that country to just go ahead and do those things in health, right? So there is a lot of varied activity, even when you say that you are doing a medical equipment innovation company, right? Now, looking at that, what is that
Right.
feeling of that invisible hand? How do you cater to this risk of every new action that you take? How is that invisible hand becoming your energy? What is that? It is a
So
weird
firstly, I just
question,
put
but yes,
together all of
obviously
this. Why
what
am I
I'm
not trying to
trying
list it?
Huh?
One,
Yes.
no, it is not at all a weird question. I would not say as a weird question.
Right.
But just because you said that we have varying activities within the organization does a very simple work of
Yes.
making products, like
Yes.
of making medical devices come to life, right?
Right.
Under that, we have various
Right.
activities. So,
Right.
so just to simply put together, like
You said
we really
radiology devices in West Africa. That is
we
basically
are going to import anyways.
you're going.
That yeah. So that we will never make, right? So
Right.
that is a diagnostic side of it.
Right.
So that's different because the market is different.
Yes. Yes.
But what we identify ourselves is that we make medical devices come to life.
Amazing.
So that is what we do. Second, I think I've been raised in an environment with a lot of belief on God, right? So I every time we had a problem, my parents would say that, why don't you chant this, or why don't you chant these many numbers of this, right?
Right.
So that has been a solution to all our problems. Like that is how I have been raised. And every time you have a complaint, go to God and ask them what is the solution. This is what needs to be done. So you do your part and then expect God to mendel in your expectations and figure out how the next path will go forward, right? So so when I say invisible hand, it's more like through so many years of entrepreneurship, there are crossroads uh that you feel you can never go back from those experiences, right? They creates they they certainly create a void in you. They certainly create a trauma in you, right? Because you have not been used to the first time when you probably fire somebody, right? So that's a feeling that sinks with you, right? Then you get on used to it, but every day as an entrepreneur, you're becoming a different person. Yeah. Every day, the more experiences you absorb, I guess, the better you understand how your journey is mapping out, right? So in that journey, there have been so many instances that we could have lost so much, or we could have been at the wrong spots, or being called as the wrong person. So no, so I think that has helped. That you feel that there is somebody who's protecting you. There's somebody who's guiding you. There's somebody who's not letting your plans happen and pick you from that spot and put you to another people, to put you to another place, and just let you flow.
And
So
that
that is
responsibility is not mine. I still have someone in the back who can put me in those places. So I am
correct.
safe in that moment. And if you are able to find that safety, I'm coming from an entrepreneurial side of observing this as well. So basically, when you have that protection in your mind that this is going to get solved and this is today
Yeah.
the point that I have to solve it, it will happen on its own. I will find that on a day when I wake up in the morning, maybe I will have a better answer than tonight when I'm sleeping on it. So
Correct.
that understanding is what you call the invisible.
So exactly, right.
Yeah.
So there are situations when you feel all doors are closed,
Yeah.
right? And you will feel, what do I do now? But then instantly the next day changes, everything comes to you the way you wanted, or you just get disconnected all of a sudden from that ambition or from that desire or from that outcome, and then you suddenly start focusing on something else. So all of that, I think, is, and I largely believe, when we serve to a larger energy, it can be God or it can be anything that you believe, that your faith says, uh, we allow our capacities to expand in a more beautiful manner. We allow ourselves to fall and learn more and more, because
Right.
life is not about accumulating anything but these experiences, right?
Yes.
So if that is what differentiates, we are not different from each other. What differentiates all of us is our own desires and our own ambitions, right?
So let me ask you last couple of questions. So one is, what is your company's position right now in terms of finances? And where does it stand that way? Is it cash positive? Is it profitable? Uh,
Where we had a very bad phase in the last 2 years, so
right.
we are we're on the track.
Right.
We're trying to be on track. So
Right.
I think in the next 6 months, it will be positive. So that's what I can
Amazing.
say.
And you are, but at least you're able to manage your monthly cash situation.
Yes, yes, that is
That's
good.
good. That's amazing. So even if you're not profitable, if you're managing your cash, you will find your profit because you're
That
able to
happens in
manage.
service business
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah. And on top of it, the last question is, my audience is made out of investors. They are made out of institutions which are partnering with innovators and startups which are like you, innovating on their products, majorly from health. Apart from that, they're also from impact of agri-tech. They're also from everything that aligns to these industries. Plus, we are also into everything that is majorly impact agnostic UN SDG. Right now, looking at these, what is your ask from my audience? Which audience would you like to choose, and what would you like to ask from them? You can choose. You can choose.
Well, I I would want all the manufacturers and industrialists who are listening to this to
Yes.
explore a innovation call with us. Maybe we would uh, give an idea of how they can enhance their existing portfolio, or how we can make it technologically more sound, the existing products, or how they can expand to geographies like Africa, US. To investors, yeah, we're working on a few projects. We would love to discuss that. I would keep that discreet, but it's in the healthcare and wellness space.
Amazing.
So we would love to explore that opportunity. We have new pipeline with us. Uh, and third, I think, well, I think we're ready for foreign companies to come and build with us. We have a large space, manufacturing space, which we have partnered with, and we would love for those companies to come and open their first center of excellence with us, because this is a new thing that we are planning out, and we hope through your audience we can reach to those people who would be happy to do their center of excellence with us in the health.
I would like to introduce you to some who hold some ecosystems of health IT. So some of them you might know already, but whatever way we can connect on LinkedIn, I'll just connect you with two people who hold sizable ecosystem from the innovation departments of large companies. So they end up being in that event. If you know about HitLab, maybe you must be knowing about it. So there is a Hit Lab. If you follow that brand, there is Health IT Lab, right?
Okay.
So this is basically a movement by a gentleman by the name of Stan in the US, and he drives this meetings across the world where the startups which are presenting are already go to market. They're looking for their expansion growth money. So at that moment, your integration with those guys plus the innovation departments of larger companies like Johnson and Johnson and other companies like that are able to go in those rooms and create those good conversations. So connecting UX Span will be a good conversation to also have, right? So pleasure to connect, right?
You have
So pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you, Shruti. It was a pleasure to see how you are building a bootstrapped innovation ecosystem across in India for every manufacturer for medical devices. Amazing to have you on our podcast and very happy to spread your word across in our ecosystem. So,
Yeah, well, largely, I want to create an identity where we become healthcare integration between three continents, India, US, and Africa. As we would want to become a value chain, even in diagnostics, through our supplies, not through innovation, to open more advanced diagnostics. So yeah, we would want to be a value chain in healthcare between three countries.
yes. And that I think is the right time to get into that kind of a dialogue. I think there is a lot of positivity that I am seeing. So I am based out of the UK and India. So basically, that's why the time difference in Rishikesh must have told you this.
Yes.
So I tend to align startups to the UK as well. So if somebody wants some connects in the ecosystem in the UK, I can also be their extended team. So I go in, I get them introduced, and those kind of ecosystem build my ecosystem as well. So
Correct.
that is something that also can be explored if you are ever looking for UK. Apart from that, obviously, I know some people from US ecosystem. I'll connect you with them. Pleasure to have you,
Fantastic.
Shruti.
We would love to have UK exploration. We haven't never have explored European or UK markets.
Yeah, so I will see what we can do, right? So I'll connect with you offline and we'll have a conversation that way. Right.
Thank you so much for hosting me. It was a lovely conversation. And I hope you guys keep doing such wonderful work. And I hope our podcast gets as many hits as you desire for. And I hope I have added some value.
Oh, you have added a lot of value, and I know that my audience will love this information and this chat between both of us. And I think there is value in creating ecosystems from people like you who are creating and having the experience to build it. So amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arjun. Look forward. Take care.
You've been listening to Impact Tech Studio podcast. Shruti Kushwaha's journey reminds us that meaningful innovation doesn't start with trends. It starts with listening to the market and committing to depth. By building medical devices through prototyping, contract manufacturing, and centers of excellence, 369 Innovations is helping global healthcare ideas come to life from India. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe on Spotify and YouTube, share it with your network, and stay tuned for more founders building real world impact. Until next time, keep building with purpose.